Once again, welcome to my weekly webcast, Ask Chuck, in which it gives me a chance to communicate with my constituents by questions or comments that you call in for me to respond this way. And remember, if you ask questions for Ask Chuck and you don't get a response this way, you will get an answer in writing. So thank you very much for participating. Our first question is from Facebook. Galen in Des Moines sent me a link to a CNN video about offshore wind energy has worked in Denmark and asked, is more foreign oil a solution? We all know that foreign oil is not a solution. In fact, it kind of puts our national security and our economy in jeopardy when we're shipping $350 billion overseas to purchase foreign oil, and a lot of it going to countries that are antagonistic towards the United States, in fact train people to kill Americans. So the extent to which we can be less dependent upon foreign oil, the better off we are. From that standpoint, it gives me an opportunity, Galen, to give you a three-pronged approach that I have to energy. Obviously, fossil fuel is a very important part of that, particularly near term. But it's a finite source of energy, so we have to do other things as well. Number two is all sorts of alternative energy, solar, wind, biofuels, etc. Almost all of the above would fall into that category, and I've been very active in tax credits in those particular areas. And then three is conservation, personal conservation that each of us can do, but also incentives through tax credits that encourage, like for instance, fuel-efficient cars, fuel-efficient home appliances. Within this three-pronged approach, I've been very active in the middle one, number two, alternative energy, because I am pushing for biofuels. The biodiesel tax credit is an example. I've been a long-time supporter of biofuels, particularly ethanol, and what we're doing now is a bipartisan approach with Senator Conrad of North Dakota is to have a 5-year extension of the ethanol tax credit. And then I'm also, back in 1992, the author of the wind energy tax credit. At the time I authored that, I did not know that it would become the big item, particularly for Iowa, and the big push in Iowa for wind energy. So as a father of the wind energy tax credit, I very much appreciate that the fact now that it has brought Iowa to number 2 of the 50 states in wind energy production. And we also now have component manufacturing coming to Iowa from Germany, from Spain, and from Arizona, California, Colorado, to come to Iowa to manufacture. We have our community colleges having new programs to help people in the repair and upkeep of wind energy. So your question about wind energy off of Denmark is very much the thing that I want to see developed. So obviously I'm thankful that about a week ago this administration announced that they're going to allow wind energy off the coast of Massachusetts. So we are beginning to learn very much that wind can not only be generated on land, but it can be generated offshore, and maybe even offshore is a more efficient generation of electricity than it is on what we call the Buffalo Ridge of northwest Iowa. So thank you very much for calling in a question and a comment about wind energy, because as a father of the wind energy tax credit, I'm very proud now of that legislation. In fact, more proud of it today than probably when I first got it passed. The second point comes from Twitter. Brian in Des Moines states, thank you for voting for the derivative section of financial reform. I'm sure I'm not the only Iowan that thought that was great. Well, thank you very much. And of course, over the next 2 weeks will be a test of whether or not that will be kept in. There's some indication that the Obama administration, through Ms. Blair, the FDIC director, that maybe they don't want to go as far as our bill does and not have Goldman Sachs and JP Morgan, for instance, deal in these, because the amendment I voted for did not allow banks to be involved in these. It seems to me that they're very much of a gamble. They encourage banks to take chances, the risk being as high as it is. We need regulation of derivatives, because the fact that they weren't regulated, I think, has a great deal to do with the financial bubble bursting 2 years ago. So thanks to both of you for your questions. Look for questions next week. In the meantime, I'll end this webcast by telling you that we will probably be on this financial reform legislation for the next couple weeks. We'll also have some votes tomorrow on several judge nominations. Thank you very much for being involved.